Today we're going to be looking at how to work out the area of a non-right angle triangle. To work out the area of a non-right angle triangle, we need three very important pieces of information. We need two sides and the angle in between those two sides. If we have those three pieces of information, we can easily work out the area by the given formula. The formula is half times AB times by the sine of angle C. So times by the angle in between the two sides, and this will give us the area of the entire triangle. So let us go through a few problems now. Okay, this is our first question. The triangle says that we have two sides, 6 centimeters and 4 centimeters, and the angle in between the two sides is 70 degrees. So to work out the area, we're simply going to use the formula that the area of the triangle is half times AB times by the sine of angle C. And to work out the area then, that would simply be the same as half times 6 times 4, because those are the side lengths of our two sides, times by the sine of the angle in between, which is simply just 70 degrees. And if we were to work this out, we would get 11.28 centimeters squared. That's the area of this triangle. The next triangle we're looking at is this one here. We have two sides and the angle in between. So again, the area of the triangle is simply half times by the side lengths of the two sides times by the angle of C. So if we substitute in the values here, the area is simply equal to half times 5.1 times 6.2, which are our two side lengths, times by the angle sine of the angle that is in between the two sides, which is 72.8 degrees. And once we worked it out, we get the area is 15.10 centimeters squared. And that's how you work it out for this triangle here. Okay, this is our next triangle. Again, we have two sides and the angle in between those two sides. So we can use the formula that the area equals to half times AB times by the sine of angle C. So in this case, it would be half times 8.2 times by 3.5 times by the sine of the angle in between, which is 130 degrees. And all that would give us is 10.99 centimeters squared, also can be rounded to 11 centimeters squared. And that is how you do this question here. Okay, here is our next triangle. We have a triangle where we know all three of the sides, but we don't know any of the angles, which is a bit of an issue because to work out the area of a non-right angle triangle, we need one of the angles inside of this triangle. So first thing we can do is we can use the cosine rule to work out one of these angles here. And if you're unfamiliar with the cosine rule, I do have another video that you can go and watch quickly before you watch this one. But let me just get into it real quick. So just for the purpose of this question here, let us work out this angle here. I'm going to label it as alpha. You can pick any angle you want. I'll just pick this one just for ease of use. So let's work out the angle alpha first. We can use the formula which says if we have all three sides of the triangle and we want to work out this angle here, alpha, then the cosine of the missing angle, the cosine of alpha, is the same as a squared plus b squared minus c squared all over 2ab. And in this case, the angle opposite our missing angle will be denoted as c, and these two sides will be lowercase a and lowercase b. So let us now work out the value of alpha. To work out alpha, we would just cosine inverse both sides. So we would do the cosine inverse of both sides. Okay, and that is equal to the cosine inverse of all the values being plugged into the right-hand side. So what we would get is a squared is simply 5.9 squared plus 3.2 squared minus 4.1 squared all over 2 times 5.9 times 3.2. Okay, and once we evaluate this, we can work out in our calculator that alpha is simply equal to 41.59 degrees. So now that we have a missing angle, we have an angle alpha, we can easily work out the area of this triangle because the area of this triangle here is simply equal to half times the two sides and an angle in between them. Okay, we don't really need to use this missing side here, this last side. We can just use these three pieces of information here. So now that we have all of that information, let us now work out the area. Area is equal to half times AB times by the sine of angle C. And angle C is the angle in between the sides A and B. So this is the same as half times 5.9 times 3.2 times by the sine of the missing angle, which was 41.59 degrees. So we get our area is equal to 6.27 centimeters squared. And that is how you do this question here. Okay, this is our next question over here. We have a triangle which gives us two interior angles and a side of the triangle. So we have no other pieces of information. So a really nice thing to do here would be to work out maybe this side length here, because then that's very easy to work out the missing angle, and we can then work out what we'd want to do. So let us first work out what is this missing angle inside this triangle here. Okay, so the missing angle inside that triangle is simply 180 minus 65 minus 55. And 65 plus 55 is 120 degrees, so that means our missing angle is simply 60 degrees. Okay, let me write it nicely. It is 60 degrees. So now we need to work out this missing side length here, because if we have this side and the angle in between, it's very easy for us to work out the final area. So how would we work out this missing side length here? That's the hard part. To work out that missing side length, we could use the sine rule, because we have a pair of opposite pairs, okay, and then we have another pair, but we have one of the information missing from that pair. So the sine rule in this case would dictate that a pair of opposites, which describes an angle and side combo like this, an angle and side combo like this, okay, we can relate those four pieces of information using the following formula. Lowercase a divided by the sine of capital A is equal to lowercase b over the sine of capital B. This is also known as the law of sines. Okay, so the sine of all of these reciprocated with the side lengths of their corresponding angles will be equal to each other. So let's plug in the information from our diagram. So we have this pair of opposites that we know. We have the angle and the opposite side known. So we can say that 6.3 centimeters, which is our side that we know, divided by the sine of 55 degrees, the opposite angle, should be equal to x, which is our missing side, divided by the sine of 65 degrees, the opposite angle. If we wanted to solve this equation, we want to rearrange it first. So we can say that x is the same. We can just times both sides by sine of 65. So if we times both sides by sine of 65, we get 6.3 times by the sine of 65 degrees all over the sine of 55 degrees. And when we work this out, we get that x is simply equal to 6.97 centimeters. So now that we have the value of x, let us now work out the final area of this triangle. Okay, so we have a missing side. What we can do is, if we know that this side length here is 6.97 centimeters, we can use the area of a triangle formula, which describes the following. That area is simply equal to half times AB times by the sine of capital C. So that would describe that the two sides and the angle in between them can be used in this case. So we can say that area is equal to half times 6.3 times by 6.97 times by the sine of 60 degrees. And when we work this out, we get our final answer as 19.01 centimeters squared. And that is the area of this triangle here. Okay, last question for the day, we have this one here. Work out the final area. So for this one here, we need two sides and the angle in between them. So we already have two sides. Let's work out the angle in between. And it's not really easy to work out this angle straight away. So let us use the sine rule, the law of sines, to work out this angle here first, which I'm going to label as theta. Okay, let us work out this angle here first. So again, the law of sines states that a divided by the sine of a is equal to b over the sine of b, which is also equal to c over the sine of c, but I won't write that right now. But because we have an angle missing this time instead of a side length, we can also take the reciprocal of this formula, which says that the sine of a over the lowercase a should be equal to the sine of capital B, the angle, divided by the lowercase side length of b. So we'll use this one here because it's just much more convenient, but they're exactly the same formula. They're both the law of sines. So now that we have this formula here, let us now input the values, essentially. So we have a pair of opposites that we know. We have 5 centimeters and its opposite angle 24 centimeters. And we also have 12 centimeters, but we're missing the opposite angle of 12 centimeters. So let us now use that information in this formula here. So the sine of 24 degrees, I'll use a nice color, the sine of 24 degrees divided by the side length of 5 centimeters is equal to the sine of theta divided by the side length of 12 centimeters. And now when we try to solve this equation, we can just rearrange for sine theta. So sine theta, if we want to rearrange it, we can just times both sides by 12. And what we end up with is that sine of theta equals to 12 times the sine of 24 degrees divided by 5. And this is equal to 0.976, but we're interested in theta, not the sine of theta. So let us just take the sine inverse of both sides. So if I take the sine inverse of both sides of my equation like this, okay, we get that theta on the left-hand side, we get theta. And on the right-hand side, we get the sine inverse of this number here, which in this case is simply equal to 77.47 degrees. So now if we go back to our diagram, we have that the angle theta is simply equal to 77.47 degrees. Okay, so let us now write that down. 77.47 degrees. So we worked out that side length there, or I mean angle, and we're still not done. We still need to work out the area, and the goal of working out this angle here was it would be useful to work out the angle in between the two sides. To work out the missing angle here, all we can do is simply do 180 minus away these two angles here. And if we do that, we get that this missing angle here is 78.53 degrees. And there we go. We have two sides and the angle in between them. So let us now work out the area using this formula. The area equals to half AB times the sine of the angle C, which is in between the two sides. So if we substitute the numbers, we get area equals to half times 12 times 5 times by the sine of 78.53 degrees. And this is simply equal, if we type it into your class pad or calculator, 29.40 centimeters squared. And that is how you work out the area of a non-right angle triangle.